Welcome to Play Hard and Love Big Radio. My name is Katie Clark. I am co-founder of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup in Folsom, California. And this is the official podcast that Nick, my husband, and I created to share our insights into living your best life. And one of the best and my favorite things about this podcast is that we get to have wonderful guests on the show, teachers and friends. And today we have Lena Morton, who, fun fact, we were on the same basketball team was it eighth
Yes,
grade?
it was eighth grade.
In
Oh my
eighth
God.
grade. That's when I first met Lena, was in eighth grade on the same basketball team that my dad coached. And he still has the picture, like the coach
Oh,
picture with the team.
yes. Awesome.
Yeah, the thank you coach little plaque thing. He has all of those. So I saw that. When they were moving, I came across all these old basketball pictures and I was reminded of that. And Lena, you are one of the teachers that has been teaching the longest at Spotted Dog Yoga, and you've done a lot of different training programs with us and with Baptiste Yoga as well. And so let's just jump right in. I'd like to hear from you, and I'm sure our listeners would love to hear from you on what yoga has given you.
Gosh, so many possible things to say, but I just finished the Inspire program here with Spotted Dog, and my biggest takeaway from that was I really am at a place in my life and just in my overall being where I accept who I am today. And it all began with me. So, really just recognizing that this is who I am, the things that have happened in my life or didn't happen in my life up until this point, that's okay. And that allows me to stem and live and breathe more authentically, and share that with those closest to me, to my world. But ultimately, it all began with me. And that's what I keep coming back to. And I totally accept it, like nothing to fix. That just in that way of who I am as a person.
Yeah, and it's what you're saying is that it's almost what I'm hearing is you take full accountability and responsibility for yourself and you do the work on yourself.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah.
Yeah, and then whatever else is just kind of there.
Yeah, big time. And it's
Yeah,
and it's
you can't control what other people do or
right.
say or that
There's
kind of
not like
thing.
the shifts, anything that I want to have manifest in my life begins with me. It's I don't know. There's just comfort in knowing that, right? I guess I can't really elaborate on it other than going into other examples of what yoga is giving me. But just the mere fact that all right, this is who I am. This is how I want to show up in the world. And then I feel that I know the word presence is used a lot, but really it's so funny, just down to how much I'm connected to my body down to breath. So the perfect example is I had a super busy evening yesterday. We had my son's end of the year baseball party that my husband coaches, and we had 35 people at the house, and I just busy. And then, the night came to an end, and I woke up at 3 a.m. What am I doing? Normally I sleep really hard. And I woke up and normally prior to practicing yoga, I probably would have sat up, gotten up and been like, what's going on? Why am I up? Just curious about the why. And I didn't. I just laid there on my back. I put my peace fingers on my pulse and I just sat there and I just breathed. And then I fell asleep, and it could have been, I guess I'm sharing that because when I woke up this morning, it just made me value how connected I am to my body and my breath and how I have that at all times. I just come back to me, come back to my body, come back to my breath. And then that has a trickle effect on those around me, right? My family, my friends, my kids, my gosh, just teaching children how to just, be in a stand for who they are. At any time, come back to your breath. I think that's one of the biggest tools other than acceptance is my breath and the value of it for my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just the ability to not, like you said, you in the past might have been wondering why.
Yeah.
Like that leads to thought after thought after thought.
Hmm.
You get in your head, and then there's no way you're going back to sleep,
Right.
probably. Or it might take like an hour or two or whatever. So, just the power of your body and your connection to your body speaks
Right.
volumes, certainly. You mentioned your children, and I know one thing I know about you is that you're a very devoted mother. And so, what would you share with the listeners about being a mother, about parenthood, or things that you've learned on that journey?
Well, the biggest thing that comes to mind is how different my children are from one another, and that's like such a beautiful thing. You know, what works for one doesn't work for the other, and that's okay. What one thrives on, the other doesn't, and that's okay. One of the biggest shifts for me is my that I've realized recently is my daughter is 14, and she's just at this age where like it's noisy, right? There's like so many influences that I don't have control over. There are some that I do, as far as limiting them and so forth. But I find that I trust the process, her process. I'm not one to sit and stress about what could be, all the bad things that could happen. It's more about guiding her and teaching her to be confident who she is. And then I could trust the decisions she makes from there. So it's almost like giving up the expectation of what should be or could be and just like living in each moment with her. Like things are going to happen, you know? So like just be with it, sit with it, move forward. And so it's funny because I love when she talks about what she wants to do in college. At this age, she's already saying, I want to live by the beach. I want it simple. She's like, I probably want to have a few roommates. I want to have a little job. I want to have a bike, maybe not even a car. And I just think that's so cool. Like, just like that vision of like simplicity, and then just like, and she wants to make it happen. I'm actually tomorrow morning, we're traveling to Colorado. She has this huge softball tournament. She plays softball, and we had to do this like recruiter page for her. And I'm like, oh my God, she's 14. Like, what? I can't believe I'm putting together videos and like where she might go to college. And that's all I kept going back to was like, little by little, these things build, and you're just painting this picture of what's possible for them. And almost like um, I have her back along the way. I don't necessarily need to hold her hand. Like like possibility is created for her because of who she is, and I'm just like there to observe it and guide her. Rather than try and like mold her. Like that's not my job.
Mm-hmm.
Keep her heart free, keep it simple. Like yeah, just the guidance and giving up. I really don't have an expectation. I mean, there are things like day to day life, of course, we treat them or teach them how to adult, but ultimately they're born pure, and I just try and guide her the best I can. And teaching is big. She's not one to sit and really listen for long talks, and so I have to catch her at the right time. Whether it be a car ride or right when I'm putting her to sleep, I still give her a hug and kiss goodnight. And those are the best times I find that she is the most open. And then my son's like
Yeah.
the opposite. He's always willing to talk. I mean, we have a 2-story house. If I'm upstairs and he's downstairs, he's like, "Where are you? I can't hear you." It's like so like attached at the hip, but at the same time, he's wild. He's a little boy, and I definitely feel like um, fifth grade, he's thriving and doing really well. But also, we're the type of family that we're outside a lot. The kids are busy, and draw them away from screens and technology the best we can, and to the point where he doesn't even want that. He doesn't even. I mean, yeah, sure, they like play here and there on the screens, but he's like full of life in more of a like physical way. Whereas I find that my daughter more like thinks it through. It's more of a thought process for her than it is like boom in your face, which makes sense. But yeah. So I as a parent,
Yeah.
I surely enjoy their differences and their strengths, and yeah, just here to guide them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and like I mean, what I got from what you said is like you're not trying to like you can't like prevent them from having things happen.
Mhm.
Like things might happen in their life that isn't like what you would want to have happen for them, you know? But like that's how
Right.
life is, right? So like and they might make all the right, great positive decisions. They might make mistakes and that's like part of it. You know, I think that's really important. I think if there's this sense for children that like if you make a mistake, you're just like gonna you're gonna be in trouble or you're bad or whatever, then not only will they not want to talk to you, like they will hide it, but also it's like they don't have the ability to live their own
Mhm.
life in a sense, you know?
Totally. Let them
So
fail. I mean, that's where the
yeah.
biggest growth happens. Even in they both play travel sports, and my son plays baseball, my daughter plays softball, and it's a huge part of our life. And like what of course we all want to win games, but that's not realistic. You're gonna lose, and then that's when you reflect on, okay, what can I change? What did I do that I shouldn't do next time? It's a reflection and not a judgment. So that's something that my daughter's really hard on herself. She pitched for a while, and that there's a lot of pressure on a pitcher. She doesn't anymore, but like just teaching her that um, the biggest growth in life, and I'm speaking to myself too, comes from the biggest failures. Like that, like how do you, if everything's going right in your life, I feel like one, you're probably not very aware of what's going on if everything's going right, and two, that's okay. It's like you had said, like there's so much out of our control that when you try and control it, that's when the type of things that start to come into your life that you don't want to attract, like anxiety, fear, hiding, things like that. Then you're trying to mold, like I was saying earlier, I don't want to mold them into this box of who I want them to be, because ultimately I just want them to be themselves. Like there's no, and that came from the practice of yoga. That came from these trainings. That is just like letting it be, let it be. Like that always comes up for me. It just in my life and my thoughts and like how I'm trying to be or trying to show up. And down to like, let's say my son is trying to get something out of a cabinet or whatever, like down to like let him struggle a little. How is he going to figure this out? Just observe him and watch him, and then sometimes he'll ask for help and I'm like, you got it. Just like encouraging them along the way is like, I feel like that's one of the best gifts that I can give them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, you mentioned that your kids play travel sports, and I know because I'm always like, I'm always texting you, can you teach this? Can you teach that? And often you can't because you're so busy. But I know you want to.
Nope.
But how do you manage like all the busyness? Because what I didn't mention at the beginning is that you're a dental hygienist on top of teaching and two kids, like you said, travel, sports, all those things. How do you manage like your own self-care and making time for yourself and keeping yourself healthy? And like you said at the very beginning, it all comes from you, so that's what's it's important, right? So how do you manage all that with your busy schedule?
I it's easy for me though the term, you know like the balanced action comes into play for me right now of um how to put myself first in a way that works for our schedule as a family. uh and usually that's the mornings. um I find that as a person, I'm the most open, whether it be physically, spiritually, mentally, like at dawn, kind of, or a little bit before that It's just like something I've always kind of been a morning person. And so that's the time that I put myself first. Sure, I have to have things done for the day, but so I'll come and practice here at the studio at 5:30. I will go for a walk. I started strength training. That's like something that I've added 3 times a week, and mobility training. I feel like I'm getting strong physically, which helps me mentally. And then so that's my balanced action a little bit, is like, okay, if I get up and I get it done, then the rest of my day can flow like it needs to. And then the afternoons are typically like driving them to practice, picking them up from practice, making dinner, and then my husband coaches. Like, it's pretty busy. And so Fridays I have off from being at the clinic. So being a hygienist, and I come here and I teach, and that's my day. Like, I squeeze in appointments that day. That's when I cook, like clean, and try my best to get ready for the weekend. And then it gets all messed up, and then Monday comes again. So it's like just like being okay with like my house is lived in. I had to kind of, after having kids, things aren't as orderly, and that's okay. Like, that's like surrounding yourself with family and friends that don't care. If your house is a wreck. Um, and then there's been a lot of times in my life where I've had to really slow down. I find that even though I love people, I love being around people, I love conversing with people, I recharge alone. And so the mornings when it's quiet and it's just me and I'm awake before I go, do whatever exercise I'm going to do, or I usually, most of the time, I meditate, and sometimes it's only 5 minutes, but just sitting and just like being quiet, I feel like is a must. And that's something that I used to look at as like, for some reason, I used to look at that as selfish. It's weird. It's like self care was like this guilt thing. And then over time, it shifted to, well, gosh, no, like that's not what it is. It's like, take care of yourself so that you can be your best self for those that matter to you. And I mean, I have to remind myself of that all the time, but I come back to the breath thing. It's like when I'm frazzled, like just take a deep breath, like chill, it's all right, and then just move forward. And little eyes are watching, right? So my kids are at an age where they're watching how we deal. Like, how do we deal with stress? How do we deal with something that gets thrown our way? How do we deal with our fridge broke the other day? Like, we were without a refrigerator, and things like this. This is life. All right, how do we deal? All right, we'll move all the stuff to an ice chest. We'll go look for a new fridge, and then this, like, going with the flow of it. Whereas in the past, I probably would have been like, well, crap, now what? And then all the food went bad, and it's just different. It's just different. And again, that came from it came from the practice of yoga. I take it, I go hard on my mat usually. Well, at least that's the feedback I've gotten. Like, I'm busting my butt, right? Like, I want to get out of it the most that I can. But then when, the end of class comes and you just get into half pigeon, you're just in the restorative aspect of it. Like, oh man, like all that hard work was so worth it. And that's kind of my mindset when I go to sleep at night. Like, all that hard work is worth it. And I don't know, 2023, one of my things was like to get an extra hour of sleep every night. So that's kind of where I'm at, trying to go to bed sooner, and just all these little things.
Because you get up
Yeah,
early.
and get up early. Yeah, I mean, I'm the best way to describe that is I'm trying. I feel like it's great to have a routine, but like kids thrive on that, but my gosh, adults thrive on routine too. And it's funny, I'm just reflecting on the thing like social media and like the things that pop up in your feeds. And like it takes what do you call it, an algorithm? Like, it takes what you look at, right? And that's like the type of things it gives you. And something I was noticing the other day, like all these like positive quotes, like this exercise stuff, like a yoga thing, like cooking stuff. And I go, okay, it made me feel like I think I'm on the right path here. That these things are popping up even
Yeah.
on social media, whether it's kind of creepy that it can pick up on that. But like, yeah, this is the type of stuff I want to invite into my life. This is what helps me with my routine, is just that, like, wake up, put your feet on the ground, have the mindset of I can, anything's possible. Different than, oh, I should have eaten that, or I shouldn't have drank that, or whatever it is. Like, that all happened. Like, new day, new moment, carry on. So,
Yeah, and what would you like say to people? Like I know it's like really hard. I mean, it can be really hard with with kids. Like I think about like life before kids. I thought, "Oh, I'm so busy." No. I mean,
oh,
once you have kids,
yeah.
it's like there's no time. It feels to me always like there's no time. And I like initially um I used to be like stressed over what I didn't get done, similar to things that you've said, stressed over what I didn't get done. But now I'm like, okay, well, it didn't get done. It's okay. I'll do it tomorrow. Like I've gotten to that point, but like I know that part of why you and I are able to do that and have our ways of doing that is because we do yoga and have the tools and but I'm curious what you would say and like what you would like what advice you have for people that like are having a hard time having that mindset or like having a hard time giving themselves time, because I think like you said it can feel selfish, but it's not, because ultimately if you're not taking care of yourself you can't take care of other people. So what do you have to say to folks that are having a hard time with that?
All it takes is the one time of doing it. So it's things initially, well, at least I can think of someone particular in my life, like every time I see them, it's like, how do I start creating a routine? Like, how do you get up that early to do A, B, and C? And it may be that you don't do it in the morning. It may be another time of day that you set that aside to do it. It just takes the one time. So, like another thing that comes to mind is like, in the dental practice, like if a new patient comes in and they haven't come in for a long time and they have this huge list of a treatment plan, and you look at it, that patient's looking at it very overwhelmed, right? And that's kind of how life can be. But when you say to them, first off, people want to feel heard. Okay, so like consider that give yourself that same treatment, like really hear yourself, and then think of it as a chipping away. Start somewhere, there's always a beginning, and then chip away at it day by day. And then before you know it, the whole treatment plan's done, right? And what you wanted to accomplish is done. And that changes every day. So what I would say is start with the first time. Everyone's a beginner at some point at something in their life. Okay, let's say you want to go on walks. Every Monday, I'm going to get up and I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to go on that walk. And then you start to realize how you feel after you set that time aside for yourself and you do that walk. All right, now I'm going to add Wednesdays, right? And so what? You're doing it Monday and Wednesday. That's your time. That's your thing. Or sit and meditate. Like, it can get overwhelming. I don't have 10, 20 minutes to meditate. Yeah, but you might have 5. Like that. Sit, meditate for 5. I'm a list taker. I use the note section in my phone a lot, because things that I think I'll remember, I won't. And so it takes that. It takes putting it. Well, first off, it was hard for me to like rely on technology. I'm like a post-it person. I think Katie and I have had this conversation before, and but now rest assured, it's all in one spot in the phone. But yeah, it just takes starting that list, like checking it off little by little. So that's what I would say. Put one foot forward and start small. Chip away at the things that you want to have happen in your life, whether it be your health. It could even be like one of the most recent things for me was in my diet. So I primarily try and put things in my body that make me feel good. So, but I don't like given the goals that I have in mind for myself, I don't get enough protein. I really wasn't raised on a lot of meats. And so that was a hard shift for me. But instead of taking away something that I already eat, I added it. So I didn't have to take away the salad or fruit or whatever I eat for lunch. I just added a protein shake to it. And for some reason, that was like easier for me to process and do than it was to take out something I like doing. Right. And it just made sense. You're adding something healthy that could be missing in your diet. And it wasn't overwhelming. Like I didn't have to create this big change just to create the shift that I wanted. So I would say just start small, and oh my God, don't have any attachment to an outcome. Like it's good to have goals. Like if you want to lose weight, you want to lose 5 pounds, like it's good to have goals, but at the same time, like it's the process of it, it's the journey of it. Like don't be attached to like, oh my God, that didn't happen, I'm a failure and it never can be done. I think I still tell myself that every day, like it, whether it be laundry, like whatever it is, like just um, roll with it. Or how else can it like uh, go with the flow like that, I would say. Yeah. So start small, go with the flow, and don't be attached to a particular outcome.
Yeah, and like what came up for me from what you said is like I think if you don't just start, you don't just do the thing, then you're always
Yeah.
just going to be thinking about it and or like waiting for the right time, which there never is a
Never.
right time, right? Like the time is always now. So it's just like do the thing. Do and like you said, start small. Like what's wrong with starting with one
Yeah.
thing a week instead of saying, "Oh, I'm going to do this every single day," and then you like beat yourself up if you miss a day and then you just feel defeated. It's like, no, just like start with one thing and then you can build from there because you're right, when you start doing things that are good for you, you feel good, then you want to do it
Mhm.
more. Then when you're like exercising more, you are more like I'm same way. Like I know what kinds of things that when I eat them, they're gonna make me feel
So
good.
true.
And or sometimes like what's not gonna make me feel
Mhm.
as good, but I don't feel guilty about it, but I have that awareness and I make the choices. So it's kind of like that. So well, thank you so much, Lena. So much of what you said I think is so valuable and important, and I'm so glad that the listeners at home can get to know you a little bit better as well. This is Play Hard and Love Big Radio, the official podcast of Spotted Dog Yoga and Sup in Folsom, California. Thank you for listening, and we will see
Thank
you
you.
soon.